Transmigrating into a disaster year as a hoodlum and rascal, I start off by picking up two goddess-level sisters. There are only a dozen or so gene of millet left at home. Sister-in-law wants to drive people away. Younger sister wants to sell herself to save her elder sister. I went up and kissed the elder sister right away. Wait for your husband to come back from hunting, and we'll consummate the marriage. The whole family was stunned, and I casually activated the intel system. At the foot of the mountain, there's a fat rabbit frozen stiff. I lay on the bed in a daze and heard a girl's voice by my ear. Sis, I'm cold where isn't cold. After a while, a sip of hot porridge will warm you up. Cold. Can't you turn on the air conditioner? Didn't we already pay the heating bill at home? I tossed and turned, unable to get comfortable no matter what, muttering under my breath. Air what? And what's heating? A stove for keeping warm? A gust of cold wind blew in through the crack in the door, and I shuddered, snapping my eyes open. Holy crap. In front of me was a pair of sisters worthy of being called goddesses. Exquisite oval faces, tears glistening in their bright eyes, pitiful and touching, literally freezing, that kind. Their faces were frozen, deathly pale, their lips were cracked, and their coarse gray linen clothes were full of holes. Their skin mottled blue and purple. Where's this? Are you filming a drama? I asked subconsciously. Seeing the two girls trembling from the cold, I quickly handed the quilt to them. Thanks. The elder sister glanced at me gratefully and wrapped the quilt around her younger sister. I exhaled a breath of cold air, goosebumps rising all over my body, like squatting naked in the snow with the wind chilling my balls. Looking around, the mud-plastered house was dilapidated and old, and the roof was actually thatched. I was clearly living in a rental with air conditioning and heating. I transmigrated after one sleep. The door was pushed open, and a woman around 30 walked in. Though she couldn't compare to that pair of sisters, she had a charm of her own, especially that pair of proudly standing ripe fruits. It was just that her eyes looked like they wanted to devour me. Sister-in-law Yunyang? A familiar yet strange name flooded into my mind, and my head felt like it was splitting apart. As long as I'm not dead, it's fine. I made half a pot of millet porridge. You all go have some. Seeing that I wasn't dead, Yunyang let out a sigh of relief and looked toward the two girls by the bed. She was conflicted, wanting to drive them away but unable to bear it. Since you've already picked them up and brought them home, at least give them a bowl of hot porridge. I held my head without reacting. Hurry and go drink something hot. Seeing the two girls looking longingly, Yunyang saw they were about to be unable to hold on any longer, especially the younger sister, whose gaze had already gone unfocused. Feeling sorry for them, she led them to the main room. I really freaking transmigrated? And into this kind of high-difficulty script. Once there was no one in the room, I hugged my head, tears almost falling. As a veteran web novel reader, I was mentally prepared for transmigration, but this start is way too hard. After fully receiving the memories, I felt awful all over. There are 4 people in the family. My old man, Su Tailin, broke his leg while hunting in the mountains and is basically an invalid. My elder brother, Su Chongqing, disappeared half a year ago while working as a constable, leaving behind sister-in-law and his young daughter. The original owner, me, was a hoodlum and rascal whose reputation stank throughout the surrounding villages. He didn't do any work in the fields and loafed around all day. This morning, he did another bastard thing. Egged on by Lu or Motsi, he picked up a pair of sisters and brought them home to be wives. The elder sister is Shun Yurong. The younger sister is Shun Yue, the two from just now. As soon as he brought them home, he was going to get married. After arguing a few words with sister-in-law, he fell to the ground and then transmigrated, starting off by getting 2 wives for free. In my previous life, wouldn't I have been overjoyed to death? But this is the ancient era where even getting enough to eat is hard. Sister-in-law is raising her daughter alone, my old man is sick, and then there's me, this rascal. With a famine year upon us and winter about to set in, the debuffs are stacked to the max. The Su family is already having a hard enough time. How are they supposed to survive with 2 more mouths to feed? That bastard of a former self was driving the family into a dead end. No wonder sister-in-law was angry. After thinking it all through, my blood pressure shot through the roof. The best choice would be to send the Shin sisters away, but in this freezing weather, they wouldn't survive the night. If I keep them here, the Su family doesn't have any extra food either. Are we all supposed to starve to death together? Starting off with a trolley problem right away. Dear God, can you send me back? If I go back, I'll definitely love my country and never lie flat again. Huh, is my cheat ability here? Then forget it, don't send me back to be a corporate drone again. Finding a wife over there is way too complicated. A panel resembling a compass slowly appeared. Intelligence system binding successful. Recent fortune. After extreme bad luck comes good luck. I wrapped the quilt tighter around myself, my breathing growing heavier. I was extremely receptive to this cheat ability. Frozen rabbit. There is a frozen rabbit at the foot of the mountain. If you go there, you will definitely gain something. Hungry pheasant. In Siaya Mountain, a hungry pheasant is foraging for food, but be careful of the slippery road. Wild boar herd spotted. Deep in Siaya Mountain, there is a herd of wild boars. Fat and full of meat, but be careful of their counterattack. As the 3 pieces of information appeared, I let out a long breath. At last, I could see some hope. Please choose one, and the system will provide detailed guidance. Accumulate experience after obtaining your harvest to level up and unlock more functions. Current level, level 1, EXP 0/100. Forget about upgrading the system for now. The family is practically at the point of having nothing to cook. I thought it over seriously. The wild boar herd was out right away. I didn't want to die. I gave up on the pheasant too. In my current weak state, go into the mountains to catch a pheasant? Give me a break. The pheasant has the terrain advantage and can fly too. I'd die of exhaustion before I could catch it. I choose the bunny. Rabbit meat is the least, but there's no risk. I can just go pick it up. Runes flowed across the compass, and a panoramic projection appeared. I could clearly see a plump rabbit by a tree at the foot of the mountain. Must be about 3 or 4 gene, enough for a soup. TSK. It was as if I could already smell the aroma of meat. In my previous life, a few gene of meat would have been nothing, but this is the ancient era in a famine year. Getting a bite of stewed meat is practically unheard of. Gotta move fast. After getting dressed, all I had was a coarse cotton-padded jacket. The moment I stepped out the door, the cold wind made my legs tremble uncontrollably. An empty stomach had left my limbs weak. It was hard enough just to leave the village, let alone climb the mountain. Better go back and drink some porridge first. Before I even entered the main room, the pleading voices inside made me stop in my tracks. Sister-in-law, please have mercy on us. My family ran into bandits while fleeing the disaster, and we've reached the end of the road. I'm willing to marry in. I ask for nothing. Just give me something to eat and drink. Shin Yurong knelt on the ground, clutching Yunyang's arm as she begged bitterly. After drinking some hot porridge, she could at least speak smoothly now. Her younger sister, Shin Yue, still looked dazed and hadn't recovered yet. When Yunyang's daughter Xiaya looked over, warmth flickered in Shin Yue's eyes. She wanted to say something, but didn't dare open her mouth. You two are really too pretty. You must be from a wealthy family. No wonder my son took a fancy to you. Old Su finally spoke. Who doesn't like a pretty wife? If this were 2 years ago, when the family was better off, we could have gritted our teeth and taken you in. But now both pillars of the Su family have fallen. The eldest has been missing for half a year, and he's probably gone. Su Tailan broke his leg and can't work, and he still needs medicine. That leaves only me, this good for nothing. Are we supposed to put the burden on Yunyang? Her daughter is only 5. Get up, miss. It's not that sister-in-law is heartless. You've seen my family's situation too. We really can't afford to keep you. Yunyang felt sorry for them, but she couldn't agree. Shin Yurong stammered, unable to get the words out, and looked pitifully at her younger sister. She understood clearly that the Su family was in difficulty. The Su family didn't drive them away with sticks, and even gave them hot porridge. They were already kind people. How could she have the nerve to force the Su family onto the road to ruin? Silence fell over the room. Standing outside the door, my head buzzed. As a modern person, how could I ever have seen something like this? Being driven into a dead end just for a mouthful of food. I'd only ever seen that on TV before. Hearing it with my own ears today, I finally understood how cruel it was. Yunyang, let's take one of them in. These old arms and legs of mine can eat a little less. And third should be getting a wife too. Su Tailin asked Yunyang cautiously. Taking in one is already the limit, and we'd still have to squeeze food out of our own mouths for them. Father, there are only a little over 10 gene of millet left at home. It's not even enough to get us through the winter. Yunyang gritted her teeth and told the truth. A little over 10 gene of millet was barely enough for 4 people to eat for 10 days to half a month. To make it through the winter, they'd probably have to mortgage the fields to borrow grain. And if they couldn't pay it back, the fields would be gone next year. Adding a delicate young wife on top of that was unthinkable. The highest standard for finding a wife in the countryside, strong enough to work in the fields, and wide hips for bearing children well. The Shin sisters were fair-skinned and delicate. A gust of wind might knock them over. They were nothing but a burden. We pawned off the things eldest left behind. Wasn't that how we got 2 bags of? He stole grain to trade for wine. I was too ashamed to tell you. Old man Su clutched his chest, speechless, and shook his head helplessly. Shin Yurong let out a bitter laugh. What a bastard. Hearing that the original owner had stolen grain to trade for wine, I gave a verdict on him in my heart. Of course, the one being judged was the original owner. I was just about to push the door open and go in when the voice inside made my heart clench again. Keep my younger sister and sell me instead. Trade me for a little money and grain to get through the winter. Is there a tavern nearby? I've accepted my fate. Shin Yurong bit her lip until it drew blood and made up her mind. She had some looks. In that kind of place, she could sell for a good price. Better for her alone to fall into a pit of fire than for the two sisters to starve to death together. Sister, I don't want you to go. Shin Yue threw herself into her sister's arms and burst into tears. What are you saying, girl? How could we possibly? Yunyang's eyes brimmed with tears she could no longer hold back. Mother, can you not let big sister go, please? Xiaoya tugged at Yunyang's sleeve. Yunyang said nothing. She couldn't bring herself to sell someone into a pit of fire, but she truly had no way to take them in. Keep one of them, then. Young lady, fend for yourself. Yunyang, borrow some more grain to get through the winter. I'll go get medicine from Granny Huang to heal my leg. Next year, I'll hunt 2 wild boars and pay it back. Su Tailin finally spoke, both wanting to find a wife for his son and feeling sorry for the two sisters. Thank you, benefactors. Shin Yurong knelt and kowtowed. At least her younger sister would have a way to live. The Su family were not bad people. This was already an enormous blessing for her younger sister. Yunyang covered her mouth and said nothing, only shaking her head. Hunt wild boars? Easy for him to say. Back when he was young and strong, even then it depended on luck. Now with a broken leg, if he went deep into the mountains, he might not come back out. Could Granny Huang's medicine really cure him? If the mortgaged fields couldn't be redeemed, the Su family would be at a dead end. It's all that hooligan's fault. If only the one who'd gone missing half a year ago had been him. Yunyang couldn't bring herself to say that aloud and only dared complain in her heart. If we raise one, then we raise one. I'll go do needlework for old Suhei and earn a mouthful of food too. Yunyang turned away and muttered, as if speaking to herself. The Su family are good people. Little sister, you must be good. Wait for big sister to come back for you. Shin Yurong hugged her younger sister and comforted her softly, then finally gritted her teeth, pushed her younger sister out of her arms, and walked outside. No. Shin Yue nearly fainted, and fortunately Xiaoya was beside her. The door opened, and Shin Yurong, eyes closed, ran straight into my arms. In a voice as faint as a mosquito's, she said to treat her younger sister well, then lowered her head and tried to leave. How could I let her go? I grabbed her arm and forcibly carried her back into the room. After shutting the door, I barked out a couple of lines in the fiercest tone I could manage. I couldn't help it. I'm not that hooligan original owner, so I had to pretend as much like him as possible. Yunyang was so angry her chest heaved. She pointed straight at my nose, her eyes already searching for a stick. If it weren't in front of the old man and her daughter, she definitely would have fought with me. Third, did you faint because you were freezing? Su Tailin wanted to get angry but couldn't bring himself to say it. There were 3 brothers in my family. The eldest was gone, the second was adopted out, and I was the third. When she gave birth to me, my mother died in a difficult labor, so Su Tailin spoiled me excessively and indulged me into a bundle of bad habits, turning me into a notorious bastard known throughout the surrounding villages. He only hoped that once I had a woman, I'd rein myself in. The one most afraid of me was Xiaoya. The moment she saw me come in, tears started falling, and she wanted to throw herself into her mother's arms. But Yunyang was angry too, so she hid in Shun Yue's arms instead. I was helpless. I hadn't even done anything yet, and my little niece was already scared to tears. Just how much of a bastard was the former me? Especially after hearing what my old man said, I understood how this hoodlum was raised. This was way too indulgent. Stealing grain to trade for wine, picking up 2 wives, and bringing them home. Shouldn't all 3 legs have been broken? What could possibly happen to me? These 2 wives, father and sister-in-law, are you satisfied? If there's no objection, then it's settled. I felt guilty, but I still had to pretend to be a hoodlum and act shameless. At a time like this, if I started reasoning and saying I'd turned over a new leaf, would that be of any use? In sister-in-law's eyes, it would be pure bullshit. We'd still end up arguing, and it would hold things up. If I wanted to keep them here and steady the family, I had to be ruthless. Neither of these 2 wives can leave. And don't even think about selling them to a brothel. The women I've set my eyes on, no one else can touch them, not even a finger, including Yunyang. Su Laohei had her doing needlework. Did he think I couldn't guess what he was up to? I absolutely won't allow that old Weiwu habit. After saying that, I didn't speak anymore. I ladled out a bowl of millet porridge so clear you could see the bottom and gulped it down. It scratched my throat. But in these famine years, millet was life-saving grain. I finished a big bowl and even licked every grain clean. Everyone in the room was watching me, afraid I'd keep acting crazy. The most uncomfortable one was Shun Yurong. Her toes could have clawed through the floor, and her index finger kept circling nonstop. I wanted to keep her, and she was happy inside. Even if I was a bastard and a scoundrel, that didn't matter compared with staying alive. But if she stayed with the Su family, the circumstances wouldn't allow it. And after finally begging for a way for her younger sister to live, she still had to leave herself. A few years ago, let alone country folk from the mountains, even the young masters of noble families in the capital would have found it hard to catch a glimpse of the sisters. Shin Yurong could only sigh. Life is unpredictable, and the world is hard to foresee. Smack. Full and satisfied, I tossed my bowl onto the table, cupped Shin Yurong's cheeks, and planted a nice kiss on her. Before anyone in the room could react, I pushed the door open and went out, leaving these words behind. Wife, help sister-in-law wash the dishes and scrub the pot. When your husband returns from hunting, we'll consummate the marriage if I catch you slacking off. Humph. I wanted to speak nicely too, but if I wasn't a bit overbearing, this family would fall apart at once. What I'm doing now may be bastardly, but it can buy us time and give us a chance to turn things around from a desperate situation. What sins did I commit in my past life? Old Su clutched his chest and went back into the house. Is this son still salvageable? Hoodlum, you're going hunting too. Yunyang gave a light rebuke, convinced that I was going off to fool around with Lu or Matsi. It seemed these sisters couldn't be sent away now. That hoodlum said that if he didn't see them tonight, he'd start making a scene. Forget surviving the winter. The house would be torn apart tonight. Looks like that needlework from Su Laohe has to be taken after all. Shin Yurong blushed red as an apple. Although she had steeled herself, kissing was still her first time, and in front of the whole family at that. A young lady from the inner chambers was mortified to death. She first tidied up the bowls and chopsticks, and helped Yunyang with the work. She still had to leave, but if she ran now, not only would her younger sister suffer, the Su family would be thrown into chaos too. Not that there were any chickens or dogs left, just that bit of millet in the jar. Standing in the village and gazing into the distance, 3 mountain peaks stood tall. Xiaoya Mountain was the gentlest. People often went there to hunt and gather firewood, and a path had already been trodden out, but it was basically picked clean. The system guidance says to go to the foot of Xiaoya Mountain to pick up rabbits. Heifeng Mountain sounds dangerous just from the name. Wolves and black bears roam there, and only old hunters dare go in. I have no impression of the farthest mountain. It's very dangerous, and I think there were even mountain bandits there. There won't be some black bear monster on Heifeng Mountain, right? I don't have any cassock to steal. I joked to steal my nerves. Before going far, I realized I had overestimated myself. Winter had only just begun, and the snow had mostly melted, but my cotton-padded jacket was too thin, and the cold wind cut right through it. Dad should have a sheepskin coat. Next time I need to borrow it to wear. Fortunately, this time I'm only going to the foot of the mountain to pick up rabbits. I had just reached the village entrance and passed a messy household when I suddenly smelled wine. Come on, bottoms up. Brother Lu, how did those 2 young women this morning end up benefiting that guy surnamed Su? What the hell do you know? You think I don't know what the Su family is like? We're drinking down all their grain right now. Su Changyan is fighting with Yunyang at this very moment. In a bit, we'll go. Ha ha ha. Brother Lu really is the smart one. Once the Su family gets thrown into chaos, we'll sneak in again. Hearing this through the crack in the wall, I got so angry my whole body stopped feeling cold. Lu Matsi and Baldi are both hooligans who used to run around with the previous host. Lu Matsi in particular is rotten to the core and treated the previous host like a fool. The wine they're drinking was bought by tricking the previous host into stealing the family's rations to trade for it. What they did with the Shin sisters was even more malicious. Picking up 2 wives should be a good thing, but didn't he know what kind of situation the Su family was in? It's only because the Shun sisters are sensible. If it had been 2 shrewish women, they would definitely have lashed onto the Su family and stirred up trouble until the family was ruined. I need to teach those 2 bastards a lesson and take back the rest of the wine. It's all mine. I stroked my chin and thought, go in and snatch it directly. That would definitely start a fight and delay things. While I was thinking it over, my gaze shifted, and under the locust tree crouched a vicious dog with its tail tucked. I've got an idea. Oh my, who dropped broken silver under this locust tree? There must be more than 2 tails. After pinching my voice and shouting, I grabbed a pebble and hid. Broken silver? More than 2 tails? Lu Matsi and Baldi both stared so hard their eyes nearly popped out. Around Amping County, millet normally costs 8 or 9 when per gene, and in famine years it rises to 15 or 16 won. 2 taels of silver could be exchanged for more than 2,000 won, enough to buy over 100 jin of millet plus a few jin of meat and live through the winter in comfort. Crack. Who the hell cares about drinking now? The two of them shoved each other and sprinted toward the locust tree at the village entrance. What bullshit brotherhood? How many coins is that worth? Where'd the silver come from? Who's messing with your grandpa Lou? Come out, and I won't beat you to death. The two of them tumbled and scrambled to the locust tree, but there was nothing there. We've been played. With hands on hips, they opened their mouths and started cursing. Whoosh, the pebble flew past. Lou Matsi looked in the direction it came from, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Woo, woof woof woof, struck by the pebble, that vicious dog bristled and barked furiously, lunging straight at Lou Matsi. The stray dog had been hungry all along. These days people can barely keep themselves alive, so who would feed a dog? Provoked by the pebble, it naturally bit with all its might. Help! Goddamn Baldy, wait for me. The mad stray dog chased the two of them as they fled in all directions, and they soon disappeared from the village entrance. Serves them right. Bite hard. After venting my anger, my whole body felt refreshed. I slipped into Lou Matsi's house. There was less than half a jar of wine left on the table, so I took a big gulp first. It was millet-brewed rice wine, cloudy and not very strong, but it warmed my body and felt great. Just this half jar on the table? That's not right. I remember there being 3 or 4 more jars. After rummaging around the house, I found 2 jars under the firewood. Wine traded for over 100 jin of millet from 2 sacks of grain, and only 2 tiny palm-sized jars were left. Those 2 bastards got off too lightly. I'll settle the full score with them later. I took the 2 jars of wine, went around the hornet's nest, and headed for Xiaya Mountain. Once out of the village and with no one around, I opened the system intel. The navigation map appeared, marking the rabbit's location, 2 li from the village entrance. With an exact distance, it was much easier to walk, so I broke it into small goals. First 100 meters, then 300 meters, and finally a 500-meter sprint. This kind of psychological suggestion worked well, and the journey was no longer hard to endure. At the foot of the mountain, everything looked desolate. Xiaya Mountain was withered yellow, and the southern side was nearly bald. Luckily, the county forbade tree cutting, otherwise it would have become a barren hill in 3 years. Cluck, 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 the call of a wild pheasant. Too bad I can't catch it right now. When I go back, I'll have to ask the old man for advice. He's an old hunter with plenty of experience catching pheasants. Luckily, I had the system. Otherwise, finding the rabbit would have taken most of the day. I quickly reached the destination and spotted the fluffy white fat rabbit at a glance. Frozen stiff, and it felt quite heavy when I picked it up. It must have been very cute when it was alive, and it will definitely smell delicious once stewed. Ding! Obtained a frozen rabbit, EXP plus 10 points. New intel is being updated. Please wait patiently. On the way back, the alert sound went off. I got EXP. Accumulating 100 to level up doesn't seem that far off. On the way back, my mind wandered. What functions would there be after leveling up? More options? Or an expanded range? Yo, brother Nyan, where'd you make your fortune? A rabbit and wine too? Come to my place. My wife cooks rabbit deliciously. Just as I was about to enter the village, Zhao Si, carrying firewood, ran into me. He had just looked disgusted and wanted to avoid me. But the moment he saw the rabbit and wine, he immediately split into a big grin and greeted me. Brother Zhao Si, I heard your family has plenty of grain. Lend me some, will you? I narrowed my eyes and turned the tables. You want to eat my rabbit and drink my wine? I want your grain too. Get lost, get lost. Give you grain in exchange for wine. What a wasteful bastard. Such a fine rabbit. How could I let him? Zhao Si immediately sobered up and walked past me, turning back as he went. That rabbit really is fat. In these famine years, only the village chief's family and the Su family in Qingshan village get to eat meat during festivals. While for everyone else, having a bowl of wild vegetable porridge is already considered very good. When I entered the village and passed Lou Matsi's house, I stopped out of curiosity. It hurts like hell. Where did this little thief come from? Just don't let me, Master Lu, catch you, or you'll see. Ow, don't move around. This medicine of mine is precious. You can't afford to pay for it. Granny Huang, is this medicine of yours any use? Why does it still hurt so badly? Ow. Su Changyan leaned against the wall, listening to the wailing and howling inside, and it felt indescribably satisfying. Today I'll just collect a bit of interest from you first. We've still got plenty of scores to settle. But in Lu Matsi's house, there was actually someone helping him apply medicine. Su Changyan peeked through a crack in the wall and saw an old granny draped in a gray robe. He searched through a jumble of the original body's memories, and only then did Su Changyan remember that she was a village shamaness. As for her exact name, he really didn't know, but everyone in the village called her Granny Huang. Whenever someone had a headache or fever, they went to her for medicine. As for how effective it was, that was hard to say. In an ancient mountain village, where would you find a proper doctor? People just gathered some herbs and endured it with folk remedies. So people like this shamaness held a lot of prestige. Although Su Changyan knew very well that shamans and Taoist priests like this were probably mostly frauds, using gods and ghosts to fool people. But what could illiterate country folk in ancient times possibly understand? They hadn't gone through compulsory education either. The sky was gradually darkening, and it was getting colder outside, so I should hurry home to drink wine and eat meat. On the way home, Su Changyan couldn't help humming a little tune, and even his steps seemed lighter. The Su family, where Yunyang should have been the busiest, had a leisurely afternoon after Shin Yurong stayed behind. Washing the dishes, scrubbing the pot, sweeping the yard, Shin Yurong rushed to do it all, leaving Yunyang just standing by and watching. "Sister, take a rest if you wear yourself out. Won't your man come after me?" "Sister-in-law, I'm not tired." "Oh dear, if you do it all, I won't get a turn. I'll teach you how to sweep the floor." Yunyang looked helpless. This Shin Yurong truly was a young lady from a wealthy family and had never done any rough work. She was diligent and eager to help, but there were many things she didn't understand, holding the broom and sweeping back and forth for half the day. After much coaxing, Yunyang finally got the broom into her own hands and had Shin Yurong watch and learn. "So you have to sweep with the wind, not use too much force, and press the broom against the ground in a zigzag." "Sister-in-law, I get it now, let me do it." Shin Yurong was breathing heavily, and after following behind Yunyang and watching for a while, only then did she understand a few things. But Yunyang ignored her and just kept sweeping, truly not knowing what to say. If Shin Yurong had been the unreasonable sort, she could simply have been driven off with a stick. But the more sensible she was, the more Yunyang felt sorry for her, and she couldn't even bring herself to say a single harsh word. She truly liked these two sisters, but the Su family simply couldn't afford to keep them. Shin Yurong looked around helplessly, seeing if there was any other work she could do, then ran to the well, wanting to help draw water. Her younger sister and Xiaoya were inside the room, holding half a book and whispering to each other. The two of them actually got along quite well. With Xiaoya keeping her company, Shen Youwei's tightly wound nerves relaxed quite a bit. With a bang, the main gate was shoved open by Su Changyan and slammed into the wall, nearly falling apart. "Wifey, I'm back." "Sister-in-law, this courtyard has been swept so clean." Su Changyan hadn't even finished calling out before he saw Yunyang pick up the broom and glare at him. "I didn't notice. This door's just too old. Why are you yelling? If this gate gets broken, are you going to replace it with a new one for me?" Yunyang was gritting her teeth, the pair of big white rabbits on her chest bouncing up and down. And the moment she saw Su Changyan, her temper flared. If Shin Yurong hadn't been watching from the side, she would already have smacked him with the broom. "Bastard, can you not act like a human being for even one day? Hey, sister-in-law, look, a wild rabbit I got from the mountain, and 2 jars of wine. Tonight we've got meat and wine." Seeing that Yunyang was about to make a move, Su Changyan quickly raised both hands, with a trace of pride still on his face. "It's my first day here, and I already got you all some meat to eat. Not bad, right? Hurry up and praise me. I'm waiting to hear it. You know how to hunt too? Who did you steal this wine and rabbit from? Hurry and return them." Looking at the rabbit that weighed over 3 jin, Yunyang was full of suspicion. "You hunted that? Stole it, more like. Xiaoya gets to eat meat tonight." Shin Youwei was in the room, looking outside through the crack in the window as she kneaded Xiaoya's cheeks, and said, "Carrot humph. When uncle has something good to eat, he keeps it all for himself and won't give me even a bite." Xiaoya pouted. But the moment she thought of stewed rabbit meat, the drool at the corner of her mouth could no longer be stopped. Ever since Grandpa hurt his leg in a fall, the Su family had not seen meat for a very long time, and they couldn't even get thick porridge. Shin Youwei could not help but feel speechless as she looked at her sister outside, and the two exchanged a wordless glance. Could they really get a word in about the Su family's affairs? "Where did you pick up a frozen rabbit?" Just as Su Changyan was feeling awkward, his mind racing as he thought about how to explain it to Yunyang, Su Tailan spoke up. He was an old hunter, and he could tell at a glance what had happened with that rabbit. It probably ran headfirst into a tree, couldn't recover, and in such freezing weather, it ended up frozen stiff. The old man could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Even though this third son was still as unserious as ever, at least he had done one decent thing. "I was originally going up the mountain to hunt, but I picked it up as soon as I reached the foot of the mountain. This wine is ours too. I didn't trade grain for it. Well, there were still 2 jars left. I brought them all back. Su Changyan raised his brows. A little smug, but still somewhat guilty when it came to trading grain for wine. No choice, he couldn't shake off this blame, so he might as well bear it honestly. What meat? Save it to trade for grain. This fat rabbit could be exchanged for 7 or 8 jin of millet, and the 2 jars of wine could trade for quite a lot too. Enough for the family to eat for several days. Actually, Yunyang could tell what was going on with the rabbit too, but deep down she still felt uncomfortable. Compared with believing it was picked up while hunting in the mountains, she would rather believe Su Changyan stole it from outside. Especially when she saw those 2 jars of wine. The nameless anger in her chest simply couldn't be suppressed. Fortunately, that bastard Su Changyan showed a bit of humanity this time and knew to bring them home. Don't trade it for grain. Let's eat this rabbit ourselves. Xiaoya is still growing, and Dad needs to eat some meat to replenish his nutrition too. My 2 daughters-in-law are also sallow and skinny. Su Changyan stood in front of Yunyang and, in one breath, came up with several excuses, mentioning everyone in the family. Oh my dear mother, there's not a single normal one in this family. We really do need to eat something good, get a bit more nourishment, and properly replenish our nutrition. Don't drink the wine. Stew the rabbit and eat it. You're wrong. Don't just stand there in a daze. Go fetch water. I'll skin it. This rabbit really is fat, almost 4 jin. Yunyang glared at Su Changyan. Count this as the guy actually saying something decent for once. It was only because what Su Changyan said sounded human. If he had said he wanted to eat it himself, Yunyang would have gone up and slapped him right away. Hom. Hearing Su Changyan mention her, Shin Yorong's nose stung, and a warm feeling rose in her heart. Ever since the family fell on hard times, Su Changyan was the first person to care about her. Did you hear that? Your little uncle is helping you replenish your nutrition. You'll have meat to eat tonight. The tightly furrowed look on Shun Yue's face seemed to ease a little as she pinched Xiaoya's cheek. That guy isn't a complete bastard after all. At least when he got meat, he knew to bring it home. I don't believe it. He tricked me before, several times. I saw him stealing grain, and because he was afraid I'd tell Mother, he lied and said he'd trade it for roast chicken for me. Humph. Xiaoya still had her lips pouted. Shin Yue couldn't help but freeze for a moment. No wonder everyone called Su Changyan a rascal. Even kids he would trick. He really was no good. Very soon, the stove was lit, and Yunyang skinned the rabbit and put it in the pot. There weren't any seasonings to speak of. The family only had coarse salt, and even then Yunyang couldn't bear to use too much. Salt was expensive. A jin of it sold for over 100 won, even pricier than meat. In winter, country folk don't work the fields and don't do much heavy labor, so naturally they eat lightly and use less salt. But even this rabbit head boiled in plain broth, once the aroma drifted out, drew the neighbors out one after another to take a look. Whose family is stewing meat? Why does it smell so good? Is it coming from old Sue's house? Their family can still afford to eat meat? Didn't they make a huge fuss this morning and bring back 2 sick daughters-in-law? Exactly, Su Tailin has only just managed to get out of bed. How could he still go up the mountain to hunt? No way. Just as the stewed rabbit was coming to a boil, a group of people had already gathered outside the Su family's door, squatting by the wall and chatting back and forth. Now that winter had set in, there wasn't much work to do. So everyone was just staying cooped up at home, and what they liked most was watching the excitement. No one in the Su family paid them any mind. When the stewed rabbit was ready, everyone went into the main hall. Go ahead and eat. You two come over and eat too. Yunyang carried a basin of meat to the table and swept her gaze around. Every one of them was just standing there stiffly. Meat, it smells so good. After the meat was brought to the table, Xiaoya couldn't stop drooling, her eyes fixed on it without moving. But in her heart, she was worried Su Changyan wouldn't let her eat any. That bad uncle just loved keeping the good food to himself. If you dare lie to me again, I'll drag your wife away. The Shin sisters sat off in the distance, adding firewood to the stove. They didn't even dare dream of eating meat. Being able to have a bowl of porridge today already left her completely satisfied. She didn't dare ask for more. Life for the Su family wasn't easy. Don't worry, from now on this will be our home, my 2 ladies. Su Changyan quietly came up behind the Shin sisters and wrapped one arm around each of them, pulling them into his embrace as he whispered in their ears. Thank you, benefactor. I already had porridge today. Not hungry. Shin Yue lowered her head and said nothing, only tugging at the corner of her clothes with her fingers. In the end, it was still Shin Yurong who spoke up. What benefactor? Call me husband. Come on, let me hear you say it. Be good. There are so many people in the room. Come to my place tonight and call me that again. Under Su Changyan's teasing, Shin Yurong's cheeks turned as red as apples. Compared to Su Changyan, these two women from ancient times were far too inexperienced. With just a little teasing, they became so shy they couldn't speak and still needed plenty of time to grow. Tap tap, Yunyang tapped the table with her chopsticks. Are you going to let people eat or not? That's enough. This rogue's mouth is full of sweet talk to coax young girls. Seeing that the Shun sisters were too embarrassed to come to the table, Su Changyan took one by each hand and led them over. Shin Yurong sat shyly beside Su Changyan, while Shin Yue lowered her head and went over to Xiaoya's side. She was truly afraid of Su Changyan. The things he said left her heart fluttering with budding feelings. He really was a rogue. After everyone was seated, Yunyang said nothing and instead turned her gaze towards Su Changyan. After all, Su Changyan was the one who had picked up the rabbit today, so how to eat it still depended on him. With 5 pairs of eyes, old and young, staring at him, Su Changyan felt a little shy. The feeling of being the head of the household for the first time was pretty good. Dad, your leg isn't well. Have a couple of meteor pieces to build up your strength. Su Changyan first picked out 2 big pieces of meat and put them into Su Tianlin's bowl. I don't eat rabbit meat. Just looking at it makes my stomach feel bad. Serve your 2 new wives instead. The old man was so moved that the corners of his mouth parted slightly. After living more than half his life, this was the first time he'd eaten food picked for him by his son. Not liking meat, one could tell at once that was false. The truth was that he couldn't bear to eat it. But today Su Changyan was in charge, so after a token protest or 2, they still let the old man be the first to start eating. Sister-in-law has worked hard too. Su Changyan served Yunyang second. Sister-in-law truly had worked hard, and there would surely be no shortage of toil for her in the future either. At least he looks somewhat decent now. Yunyang nodded, the look in her eyes towards Su Changyan especially astonished. The feeling this rogue gave her today was somewhat unfamiliar. Why do I hear someone calling me? A bad uncle? Was that you? The meat was just about to land in Xiaoya's bowl when Su Changyan deliberately stopped, putting on a perfectly serious face. I meant uncle is the best. Xiaoya stared at the chunk of meat on the spoon, so anxious that tears were almost coming out. Pouting, she answered unwillingly. Say it again. Uncle is the best. Only then did Su Changyan scoop it into the bowl. Xiaoya immediately grabbed it with her hand and took a big bite. I really don't need any. Just a sip of the broth will do. Me too. When it was the Shin sisters' turn, the 2 of them shook their heads like rattles and both refused. Would Su Changyan listen to that? You're all my women. What does eating a bite of meat amount to? Hurry up and eat. Su Changyan said sternly, and after speaking he ladled a spoonful for each of them. In the end, Su Changyan couldn't even be bothered to use a bowl. He simply dragged the remaining half basin in front of himself, which suited his rogue image much better. Today feels just like a dream. Shin Yurong looked at the meat in her bowl and murmured softly. This morning she was still homeless, and just getting a mouthful of hot porridge would have satisfied her completely. But after only half a day, she was eating meat? The change happened far too fast. Su Changyan picked up a piece of meat and put it into his mouth. Ah, the fragrance of meat. Even though there were no seasonings, he didn't taste much gaminess at all, only felt deeply satisfied. This was the body's extreme craving for protein, transformed into taste, bringing an indescribable pleasure to both body and mind. It had simply been too long since he'd eaten meat. For the moment, anything tasted delicious. Only after 2 or 3 pieces went down, when the initial surprise had passed, did a faint gamey taste finally appear in his mouth. This stewed rabbit is nowhere near as good as roast chicken. I don't like it, so you all finish this half basin too. After a few bites of meat, Su Changyan pushed the basin back to the middle of the table. At the mention of roast chicken, Xiaoya's eyes lit up at once, as if the stewed meat in her hands had suddenly become unappetizing. Staring at Su Changyan, she said, You still owe me one. No, several roast chickens. A basin of saltwater stewed rabbit wasn't exactly all that tasty, but it was already the best thing the Su family had eaten in the past half year. The Shin sisters in particular felt especially mixed emotions as they ate a bowl of meat. Without having gone through the hardships of wandering and homelessness, one could never understand this kind of suffering. Can we drink wine? Su Changyan tried asking Yunyang. What are you drinking for? If we don't trade the wine for grain, are our whole family supposed to live on the northwest wind in a few days? Yunyang said irritably. After downing a bowl of millet porridge, Su Changyan smacked his lips and returned from the brief dream back to reality. The conflicts at home had temporarily eased, but the issue of food still meant a long road ahead. After dinner, the sky gradually darkened. Once everyone had eaten and drunk their fill, the Shin sisters helped Yunyang scrub the pot and wash the dishes, their hearts full of unease. Su Changyan came to Su Tielin's room. There was still something he wanted to ask the old man for advice about. Standing in front of Su Tielin, he wanted to say something nice, but after holding it in for a long time, he still couldn't get the words out. He had suddenly gained a biological father, and there was still a hurdle in his heart. Since he couldn't open his mouth, he chose action instead, massaging his old dad's right leg. Whether it helped or not, he didn't know, but it moved the old man so much that he was in tears and snot. Do you really like those two girls, or did seeing how pretty they are just make your blood rush to your head? Su Tielin glanced outside the room, saw no one nearby, and quietly asked Su Changyan, your son truly can't bear to let them fend for themselves. Don't worry, I'll support them. They won't become a burden on the family. Su Changyan's tone was calm, but the meaning in his words was extremely firm. Nonsense, we're all one family. What burden or not? Once I recover for a few days, I'll make a trip into the county seat and go to your eldest uncle's house. Think of a way to get some help from them. Even if I have to kneel to him, so be it. Su Tielin said with reddened eyes, stroking his son's hand. No matter what, they are still biological brothers. Even though they had fallen out back then, the second son had also been adopted to the elder brother, so if he swallowed his pride, he ought to be able to beg for some money and grain. Su Changyan froze, searching his memory hard. The eldest uncle in the county seat, Su Taishu? He only remembered that when his grandfather was still alive, the Su family had worked as officials in the county, had a courtyard house in the city, and lived a fairly comfortable life. Later, for some unknown reason, they fell out. Su Tielin had adopted his second son to his elder brother Su Taishu and brought the eldest son with him to Qingshan village. It was only after coming to the countryside that Su Changyan was born, and his wife also died in childbirth. I really can support our family. Though he didn't know what conflict existed among the older generation, hearing that Su Tielin still intended to kneel, Su Changyan truly couldn't bear it. At such an old age, and still having to suffer like this. Parents' hearts are always full of love for their children. As long as you live well from now on. As for me, I don't care, I've let it all go. Su Tielin reached out and patted his son's face, his own face full of happiness. Dad, I want to learn hunting. Also, do you know how to set snares to catch wild pheasants? When I was picking up rabbits today, I saw some wild pheasants, but I just don't know how to catch them. No matter how much more was said, it was useless. Su Changyan could only change the subject and bring up the real matter. If he wanted to make full use of the system's advantages, learning to hunt was a must. Hunting isn't easy to learn. First, you have to learn to identify the tracks of prey. That's the hardest part and requires years upon years of experience. Then you still have to learn archery. Wild pheasants actually aren't that hard to catch. Just set a hanging snare or use some millet soaked in liquor. The moment hunting came up, Su Tielin grew even more excited and talked eloquently. There was both pride in his own skill and happiness that his son had turned over a new leaf. Especially when it came to tracking prey, it was the skill he had been proudest of for half his life. By footprints, droppings, and gnawed grass roots, you can judge what kind of animal it was, how big it was, how long ago it passed by, and whether it was male or female. This is all the experience of old hunters. Something that requires years upon years of accumulation and can't be learned in a short time. Su Changyan listened carefully and attentively. Tracking prey is the hardest part, but I have a system. I just need to think about how to pick up the leftovers. Time passed quickly, and a crescent moon hung high in the sky as Qingshan village sank into nests. In the countryside, there isn't really any nightlife. As soon as it gets dark, people go to bed early. The oil in the lamp and the firewood in the stove all cost money, so saving a little wherever possible matters. What's more, there wasn't really anything to do at night anyway. But tonight, the Su family made an exception and lit a lamp in Su Changyan's room. Creak. After learning from his old man, Su Changyan returned to his room full of anticipation. 1 against 2 is pretty difficult. The wedding night was even more exhausting than digging a vegetable cellar, let alone with 2. But when he pushed open the door, only Shin Yurong was in the room. Who, husband? After seeing Su Changyan come in, Shin Yurong lowered her head and spoke in a trembling voice. Her hands kept tugging at the corner of her clothes. Wei-er isn't very convenient these past few days, so she went to sleep in sister-in-law's room. Husband, please don't be angry. Women's matters. Shin Yurong wasn't sure whether Su Changyan understood, so she could only try to explain. Her period came. Su Changyan understood as soon as he heard, so he carried the oil lamp over to Shin Yurong. My wife is still being too polite. We're all family, so we must have a deep exchange. a little gentler. Then the oil lamp was blown out, and the Su family also sank into darkness, leaving only poor Yunyang next door to suffer. With walls plastered from mud, what soundproofing could there be? She could hear everything clearly. She was at an age of raging desire to begin with, and had been widowed for a long time, so naturally she tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Who knew how much time had passed when Shun Yorong, looking utterly satisfied, nestled in Su Changyan's arms, her fingers still drawing circles on his chest. It was his first time too, so where did he learn so many moves? No wonder he's such a rogue. He must have gone to those kinds of places plenty of times before. Shin Yorong thought to herself, "Husband, there are some things I shouldn't hide from you, and I want to tell you." After hesitating for a moment, not knowing whether Su Changyan had fallen asleep, Shin Yorong whispered into his ear. Su Changyan didn't react, only making Shin Yorong feel a little uncomfortable from being pressed against him. "Actually, our sister's family, we weren't attacked by bandits. We were exiled from the capital. Our Shin family used to be an official household too, but later committed a grave crime. The women of the family were exiled to the frontier, and that's how we ended up near Amping County. There were more than 100 people in the exiled group, and on the way the escorting officers met with an accident. Only then were we sisters able to escape to the vicinity of Qingshan village." Shin Yorong murmured. She wasn't sure whether Su Changyan had heard her, and simply kept talking, as if she were saying it to herself. But she was truly terrified inside. Sisters in distress after being robbed by bandits and escaped exiles on the run were not the same thing at all. Once their identities were exposed, harboring and concealing escaped convicts was a crime in the Great Qin dynasty, punishable by the execution of the entire family. Could my husband even understand this? The capital, an official family of note. Am I overthinking it? Shin Yorong comforted herself inwardly. For the common people of Qingshan village, just making one trip to the county seat meant they had seen the world and broadened their horizons. "I know, your family was framed by treacherous officials, wronged and brought low. Don't worry. One day, your husband will surely clear your family's name and redress your grievance. I'll seize that damned emperor's throne." Su Changyan was sleeping groggily and really hadn't understood what Shin Yorong was saying at all. But as a transmigrator from Blue Star, the moment he heard keywords like capital and exile, he instantly filled in the plot in his head, as if talking in his sleep. He mumbled a few words, then slept even more soundly. "Husband." Scalding tears slid down from the corners of Shun Yorong's eyes one by one. There was actually someone who dared say he would clear the Shun family's name and redress their grievance? These were words of great treason, but they moved Shin Yorong deeply, her lips trembling nonstop. Although the one who had usurped power through trickery was her father, and his corruption had been exposed, Shin Yorong directly kissed Su Changyan on the lips, and the two rolled around on the bed for a while. In the next room, Yunyang sat up from bed and gritted her teeth as she looked toward the other side. In the middle of the night, are people going to be allowed to rest or not? The next morning, when Su Changyan woke up, Shin Yorong was already up, and he was alone in the room. Taking advantage of no one being around, Su Changyan quickly contacted the system, and the familiar system panel appeared. Another day had passed, and he could obtain new intelligence again. It seemed the system's intelligence gathering cooldown was once every other day, which was pretty good. Let's start drawing intelligence. Ding, intelligence is being acquired. Please wait. Recent fortune. After extreme adversity comes a turn for the better. Fresh wild ginseng. On the mountainside of Xiaoyan Mountain, there is a fresh wild ginseng waiting to be picked. Wild pheasants foraging. Some wild pheasants, driven by hunger, have come near the foot of the mountain to forage. It is the perfect time to catch them. A herd of wild boars sighted. Wild boars have appeared in the depths of Xiaoyan Mountain. As food becomes increasingly scarce, the herd is gradually becoming more violent, so hunt with caution. Still the classic 3 choose 1. Su Changyan took one look and found that 2 of the entries were quite familiar. Only the wild ginseng was new. I choose the wild pheasants. After pondering for a moment, Su Changyan chose the second piece of intelligence. Today he would go up the mountain to catch wild pheasants. There were mainly 2 reasons. First, last night, he had learned quite a few techniques for catching wild pheasants from his father, so this was the perfect chance to test them out. Second, the other 2 pieces of intelligence weren't that great. Go hunt a herd of wild boars. Unless he had gone mad. In the hunting world, there was a saying, first boar, second bear, third tiger. It wasn't that wild boars were fiercer than tigers or black bears, but wild boars liked to appear in groups. They were already thick-skinned and sturdy to begin with, and once caked in mud all over, it was like wearing armor. Ordinary blades and arrows couldn't hurt them at all, and wild boars had a very fierce temperament, and they had the urge to attack the moment they saw people. They were truly hard to deal with. In Su Changyan's mind, he imagined a whole herd of wild boars charging at him, no less than courting death. Could you even calculate the odds of surviving that? Without absolute confidence, there was no need to even think about it. He directly passed on the intelligence about the wild boars. Going to dig up wild ginseng would be nice though. If he took it to the market to sell, it could be exchanged for quite a bit of money. But he would have to go halfway up the mountain, and the mountain was high with slippery paths, making progress difficult. After a brief comparison, Su Changyan made his judgment. Wild pheasants were still the better choice. Especially these wild pheasants that were starving. Using Su Tianlin's words, they were easy as hell to catch. Wild pheasants are not only stupid, but they also never learn their lesson, especially after they've gone hungry. Set a snare, and they'll walk right into it with their eyes open. As long as you pinpoint where the wild pheasants are, there's an 80% chance of coming back with something. Husband, wash your face and come eat. Sister-in-law made a pot of porridge with the leftover meat broth from yesterday, and it smells wonderful. Shin Yurong shyly returned to the room and helped Su Changyan get dressed, then took the bedsheet out to wash. That red flower on it was far too conspicuous. Shin Yurong kept calling him husband in that delicate voice of hers, and it made Su Changyan's bones go weak. After being thoroughly cherished last night, Shin Yurong looked even more mature, dignified, and graceful. Even if the eldest could endure it, the second couldn't. Su Changyan wrapped his arms around Shin Yurong from behind and gave her a proper reward on the bed. A moment later, Shin Yurong finally broke free, tidied her messy hair, and cast Su Changyan a resentful glance. Sister-in-law is washing bedsheets too? Oh my, why do you look like you're not in great spirits? Tired out, are you? I'll catch a pheasant for you today and help you recover. After leaving the room, Su Changyan saw Yunyang leaning together with Shin Yurong, both of them washing bedsheets. Each was more bashful than the other. Shin Yurong seemed to be in pretty good shape, but Yunyang looked sleep-deprived and was yawning over there. Get lost. Just stop causing trouble for me. That's enough. Catch a pheasant. Don't throw out your back. Yunyang shot Su Changyan a resentful glare, then glanced at Shin Yurong. Isn't it all because you two wore me out? Husband, I'll go ladle the soup. In the main hall, Shin Yue hurriedly stood up as soon as she saw Su Changyan come in. Blushing, she went to ladle soup for him. You brat, getting such a bargain with two unmarried maidens. Take a look at this gear. After coming into the room, Su Tailin said sternly and tossed a large bundle to Su Changyan. Inside were all the tools needed for hunting. After Su Changyan said last night that he wanted to learn hunting, the old man had gotten up early in the morning to pack everything. Su Changyan quickly finished his porridge, then opened the big bundle as if unboxing a mystery box. There wasn't much inside: a hunting knife, a bow, and 7 arrows. They were all things the old man had used back in the day. The bow was made of mulberry wood and ox sinew, with a draw weight of half a dan. Just right for you to practice with. Once you get used to using the mulberry bow, I'll give you that composite bow. That one's a bow of 1.5 dan. Watching Su Changyan curiously fiddle with the bow and arrows, Su Tailin started muttering while chewing rice grains. According to the system of the Great Qian dynasty, a draw weight of 1 dan was around 120 jin. With a 1 dan bow like that, it was already no easy feat for an adult to shoot 4 or 5 arrows. Accuracy simply couldn't be guaranteed. Most of the people who used them were soldiers or veteran hunters. Su Tianlin's iron bow had an even greater draw weight, about 1.5 dan, which wasn't suitable for Su Changyan's current strength. Pretty good. Su Changyan drew the bowstring and slowly let it relax again. The strength suited him just right. This mulberry bow was a short bow, convenient to carry in the mountains and forests. At short range, it was highly accurate and also quiet. The old man had truly put thought into choosing this bow for him. There was nothing special about the arrows. They were ordinary willowwood arrows with broadheads. Broadheads didn't do especially high damage, but they very easily caused heavy bleeding over a large area, and they didn't damage for much either. They were especially suitable for hunting. As for the hunting knife, it was over 2 chi long, shaped somewhat like a dagger, but with a longer blade. This set of equipment, if you were talking about using it to hunt something like a wild boar, a big black bear, that definitely won't do. But for shooting a wild pheasant, a roe deer, or a sika deer, it's just perfect. For Su Changyan, it couldn't be more suitable. Right now, he has absolutely no thoughts about those thick-furred beasts. Then I'm heading up the mountain. When I come back tonight, we'll have stewed chicken. After packing up his gear, Su Changyan set off eagerly, and also changed into a fur coat to keep out the cold. Wild pheasants forage in the early morning and roost at night, so the morning is the best time to catch them. Stewed pheasant? Really? The moment she heard there would be stewed pheasant to eat, Xiaoya immediately jumped up and looked around everywhere. We just finished eating stewed rabbit, and now you want stewed chicken too? Dream on. You too, father, just letting him go up the mountain alone like this. Yunyang said irritably. Sigh, hunting isn't something you can learn overnight. Just tracking prey alone would take him years to learn. Let him give it a try. It's better than him running around and fooling about everywhere with Lu or Matzi and those others. Su Tailan said, stroking his beard. Seeing that his son had found a wife, and also knew to better himself now, he felt indescribably happy. It's a pity we don't have paper and pen at home. I can write, and I'm quite good at drawing too. I could earn some money by writing letters for others. Wei even studied medicine for a few years. Once she had some free time on her hands, Shen Yurong couldn't sit still and began thinking about how to lighten the burden on the family. Could they really expect Su Changyin to go hunting every day and come back with something every time? Isn't that just a daydream? Hunting depends too much on luck. It's not like farming, where there's a fixed harvest. Sister, in this poor backwater place of ours, there are barely any literate people. One by one, they can't even write their own names. Yunyang was helpless too. Writing and painting are things only wealthy families can afford to indulge in. If you want to write letters for others, you'd have to go to the county town 30 li away. Thinking of this, Yunyang suddenly grabbed Shen Yurong's hand and said excitedly, the day after tomorrow is the big market in town. Come with me, and let's trade those 2 jars of wine and the rabbit skins for grain. Maybe someone will need you to write something. Around Qingshan village, anyone who can recognize their own name is considered educated. Shen Yurong's skills in reading, writing, and painting are truly of no use in a rural mountain village like this. Not as practical as going up the mountain to gather some firewood. Yunyang could only take her to the market for a look around. Maybe there'd be weddings or funerals where someone needed writing or painting done. After changing into his old man's sheepskin coat, Su Changyin didn't feel nearly as cold on this trip into the mountains. Uncle, enjoying the sun, as he passed the village entrance, he saw quite a few people squatting by the wall chatting, and Su Changyin tried greeting them. But his reputation was just too good. Hearing someone say hello, the few people had been quite pleased at first, but the moment they saw it was Su Changyin, they all craned their necks and turned away. Why bother with this hooligan? He might just latch onto you. Say, this rascal Su is carrying a bow and arrows up the mountain to hunt? Has he really come to his senses? Oh my, you nearly scared me to death. Him hunt? Wasn't it just that he got lucky as a dog yesterday and picked up a rabbit? The hell does he know about hunting? I'm telling you guys, you'd better keep an eye on your own front doors. The Su family will probably be borrowing grain all over the place. Really? Really? That little bastard brought back that delicate little wife. How could the Su family possibly afford to feed her? I've got to go back and tell my wife to hide the grain well. As soon as he left the village, Su Changyin immediately summoned the system. That minimap-like information clearly marked where the wild pheasants were. Following its guidance, he soon arrived at a pine forest. This is the place. Looking at the footprints on the ground, the 3 spread toes look a lot like bamboo leaves. It's a wild pheasant. Entering the pine forest, Su Changyin saw quite a few pheasant tracks on the ground, and his heart immediately leapt with joy. He then crept forward on tiptoe, making as little noise as possible so as not to startle the pheasants. Not long after moving forward, a faint cooing sound came from nearby. In Su Changyin's eyes also appeared 2 brightly feathered pheasants, pecking for food as they walked over. They weren't especially fat, but they were definitely better than yesterday's wild rabbit. Each had to weigh 4 or 5 jin. Su Changyin carefully took a cloth bundle from his robe, inside of which was the secret weapon he had prepared. Millet grains soaked in liquor. This was the secret recipe Su Tailan taught him last night. Based on the pheasant's habit of loving grain, soak the millet grains in liquor the night before. Millet grains soaked in rice wine had an especially strong aroma, and pheasants loved to eat them most. Once the pheasants ate the grains, it was equivalent to drinking a little alcohol too, and before long they would move sluggishly, all groggy and muddled. By then, you could catch them with your bare hands. After taking out the millet grains, Su Changyin scattered them little by little, sparsely, to avoid startling the pheasants with a sudden toss. Done. Now he just had to wait for the pheasants to come over. Su Changyin wiped the sweat from his forehead. More than half a handful of millet grains had been scattered, and now he just had to wait for the pheasants to come eat. After finishing, Su Changyin quickly retreated to a distance and waited patiently. He also fiddled with the bow and arrows in his hand as a backup plan. If this secret weapon failed, he'd use arrows to shoot them. Who knew how much time had passed before the two pheasants caught the scent of the millet and came walking over, cooing. Su Changyan's heart rose into his throat as well, hoping the secret weapon would work. The pheasant in the lead caught the scent of the millet, stretched out its neck, and warily looked around. After dawdling for quite a while, it still couldn't resist the temptation and began pecking at the millet grains on the ground. It seemed it was starving quite badly too. After the leading one started eating, the other pheasant naturally flapped its wings and came over, starting to fight over the millet grains on the ground. Before long, the pheasants, originally so cautious, became unsteady on their feet, as if walking on cotton. About 10 minutes later, the pheasants began drooping their wings and nodding off repeatedly. It was just like a person dozing off. Su Tailan truly deserved to be called an old hunter. This secret recipe was absolutely brilliant, catching pheasants without any effort. After a while more, Su Changyan felt the time was right. The lead pheasant had eaten the most and was now already groggy, making faint cooing sounds from its beak. Su Changyan stood up and slowly moved toward the pheasants. When he accidentally stepped on a branch and made a sound, the pheasant didn't even react. His target was naturally the one that was less drunk. He would take it down first. As for the one that was more drunk, no way it could get away. But if he did it the other way around and went to catch the one that was more drunk first, then the less drunk one might be able to escape. Su Changyan approached from behind, then suddenly lunged forward and grabbed the pheasant in his hand in one go. Coo, coo, coo. After being tightly seized in his hand, the pheasant began flapping its wings, trying to escape. Unfortunately, it was drunk, and Su Changyan gave it no time to react, directly twisting hard at its neck. The pheasant stopped moving. Su Changyan weighed it in his hand. This one had about 4 kg of meat. Though not bleeding it would make it a bit gamey, who cared? The family didn't even have enough food to eat. The remaining wild pheasant seemed to come to its senses after hearing the commotion and began darting around in place like a drunkard. It tried to flap its wings and fly away, but it couldn't muster any strength and could only run crookedly across the ground. Su Changyan took out his bow and arrow from behind his back, drew the bowstring, and shot a willowwood arrow at the wild pheasant. Whoosh! Damn it, what a master of edge highlighting. It looked like it hit, yet not really. Watching his arrow graze past the pheasant, Su Changyan stomped his foot on the ground. If you're bad, you need more practice. Archery accuracy wasn't something you could quickly master in a short time just by relying on the system. The wild pheasant had first been startled by its companion, and just as it flapped its wings, an arrow brushed past it. Now it was still badly shaken. Its drunkenness seemed to fade a little, and it bolted toward the distant mountain woods. Hanging the wild pheasant in his hand at his waist, Su Changyan stepped forward and picked up the arrow. If he said it didn't hit, that wouldn't be quite right either. On the arrowhead, there were still traces of blood and a few fine feathers. It grazed its leg. It can't run far. Su Changyan's spirits lifted, and he immediately followed the intermittent drops of blood and staggering claw prints in the snow. He had chased less than 20 paces when, behind a clump of dense dead grass, he spotted that brilliantly colored wild pheasant. It was just too obvious. The wild pheasant had been scared silly, burying its head in the bushes and trembling, while the feathers on its rear were left sticking out. Truly a stupid, drunken bird, putting on a classic act of covering its head while ignoring its butt. Su Changyan simply crept closer quietly, went up and grabbed the pheasant in one go, then wrung its neck. 2 in hand, and this one was plump too, definitely about 5 kg. One to stew and eat, the other to roast and eat. That girl Xiaya had been thinking about eating chicken every day. Looking at the 2 wild pheasants in his arms, Su Changyan calculated in his heart. 2 wild pheasants. Beautiful. Just thinking of the taste of stewed chicken made Su Changyan feel light and floaty all over as he walked toward the village. Outside the Su family's gate, 2 pairs of thieving eyes kept peering inside. Master Lu, isn't the Su family fine? Where's the chaos? That little lady is really fair. This is fucking strange, isn't it? That Shu Yunyang didn't get angry and even kept those 2 women there? Yeah, I heard. The Su family even ate meat yesterday, stewed rabbit. You serious? Absolutely. When you got bitten by that dog yesterday, lots of people in the village smelled it. What the fuck? Outside the Su family's gate, 2 pairs of thieving eyes kept peering inside. Lu Ermatsi and Laitu were squatting in the corner by the wall, their faces full of astonishment. The Su family, which should have been in complete chaos, was actually fine, and they even ate meat last night? If they hadn't been fooled, they should have come over yesterday to watch the excitement. At the thought of himself being chased and bitten by that mad dog, the liquor at home also being stolen, while Su Changyin was instead eating stewed meat and holding a pretty wife in his arms, he felt 10,000 times more upset inside. Lu Ermatzi was red-faced and agitated. Could it have been Su Changyin who fooled him yesterday? As he was thinking, a familiar figure appeared. What are you two doing here? Su Changyin had just returned near his front gate when he saw Lu Ermatzi and Lai Tu squatting off to one side, occasionally peering toward his house. The moment he thought of what Lu Ermatzi had done, Su Changyin's originally bright and sunny mood instantly turned overcast. With 2 wild pheasants tucked in his arms, in order to avoid the uncles and elders at the village entrance, he still took a roundabout way back to the village. But as soon as he reached his doorstep, he saw those 2 bad luck bastards. Isn't this my brother Nian? Huh, what's he hiding in his arms? Aren't we all brothers? The moment Lu Ermatzi saw Su Changyin come back, he instinctively stepped back, feeling a little guilty like a thief. But then his eyes went wide. Under Su Changyin's fur coat, it was all bulging, and a chicken claw was sticking out underneath. A wild pheasant? That instantly made Lu Ermatzi stand at attention, and Su Changyin once again became the brother in his mouth, thicker than water. Get lost. Su Changyin frowned and barked coldly. He really didn't want to bother with these 2 hooligans. But it seemed that unless he got a little rough, it wouldn't work. With a thug like Lu Ermatzi, you just can't say a single nice word to him. He's exactly the type to give him an inch, and he'll take a mile. Aren't we brothers anymore? Come on, let's go to my place and eat stewed chicken. Your brother here is craving it. Lai Tu, hurry up and come help your brother Nian. There are wild pheasants. After clearly seeing the several wild pheasants in Su Changyin's arms, Lu Ermatzi's eyes turned red, and he shamelessly clung to Su Changyin. Hearing this, Lai Tu also hurried over. Lu Ermatzi rolled up his sleeves and reached out to snatch the wild pheasants from Su Changyin's arms, as if Su Changyin would indulge him. Swish! Su Changyin stood where he was without moving, and just when Lu Ermatzi stupidly got right in front of him, he pulled a hunting knife from his waist and slashed across. He still had some restraint in his strike. He definitely wasn't going to kill anyone in the village, but he could teach him a lesson. A little blood slid down the blade. Sorry, Lang. How could Lu Ermatzi have expected Su Changyin to really do it? He sliced open a gash on his right hand. He immediately dropped to the ground, throwing a tantrum and rolling around, shouting nonstop. Su Changyin, you even lay vicious hands on your own brother. Today I, Lai Tu. Seeing Lu Ermatzi collapse to the ground, Leida's simple-minded brain immediately flared up. Just as he was about to fight Su Changyin to the death, there came a bang. A lump was raised on Leida's head from a blow by a stick, and clutching his head, he bared his teeth in pain. Who told you to come make trouble at my door? Get lost right now. Yunyang stood with one hand on her hip and a stick in the other, pointing it at the 2 hooligans on the ground. After she appeared, Lu Ermatzi and the other man were obviously a bit cowed. Su Changyin was a well-known thug in all the surrounding villages, and Yunyang was a well-known shrew in all the surrounding villages. Both were notorious figures. Zhou Yun. Just you wait. I, Lu Ermatzi, will deal with you sooner or later. Don't run, and Su Changyin too. From now on our brotherhood is over. While spouting threats, Lu Ermatzi crawled farther away, yelling as he ran. Lai Tu too had been smacked by that stick until his eyes cleared up, and he took off running. Those 2 bastards. Watching the 2 of them flee, Yunyang rolled her eyes. She had gone too easy on them just now. Sister-in-law, you're amazing. Look what I brought back for you. At a time like this, the flattery had to keep up. Su Changyin even took the wild pheasants out from his arms. Ah, you caught these. Yunyang directly ignored Su Changyin's nonsense. But after taking the 2 wild pheasants, she couldn't help raising her brows. You could still say yesterday's rabbit was just good luck, but getting 2 pheasants in one morning? You really do have some skill. Let's go home. Looking at Su Changyin's smug expression, Yunyang pursed her lips. Look how pleased with yourself you are. Just as they were about to step inside, Su Changyin looked in the direction Lu Ermatzi had left. Those 2 bastards were trouble, especially Lu Ermatzi. Sooner or later, he was bound to stir up trouble again. Although I don't want to kill, set fires, or harm others' lives, for the sake of my family, there's nothing to be afraid of. Husband is really capable. On the first day, he caught a rabbit. On the second day, wild pheasants. This means we're eating meat every day. After returning home, looking at the 2 wild pheasants, the Shin sisters couldn't stop marveling. They had thought that staying with the Su family and getting a mouthful of thin porridge would already be the best kind of life. But now, they get to eat meat every day? Mother, I want to eat a drumstick. Xiaoya tightly hugged a wild pheasant and chased after Yunyang. Her little cheeks puffed up. Eat what? You just had stewed rabbit yesterday. If you eat meat every day and make yourself sick, then what? Yunyang said irritably. This little girl had really been spoiled rotten and had become impossibly picky about food. All you think about all day is eating meat. What husband's family will be able to afford you in the future? After being scolded a couple of times by Yunyang, Xiaoya pouted and ran off to find Xin Yue. 2 jars of wine, 2 pheasants, and rabbit fur. The day after tomorrow, trade them for grain at the market. If the family eats sparingly, hopefully they can make it through this winter. Yunyang calculated silently. 1 jar of wine can be traded for 5 jin of millet. 1 chicken for a dozen or so jin of millet, and rabbit fur can also be traded for 1 jin. But no matter how she calculated it, it still wouldn't be enough to eat. The family had 2 more living mouths, which meant they would have to eat more than 20 jin of millet a month. Sister-in-law, just stew 1 and eat it. Tomorrow I'll head up the mountain again. I even saw a wild mountain ginseng today. After washing his face, Su Changyin breathed out cold air. Hum. Little uncle is the best. Hearing that Su Changyin wanted to stew chicken to eat, Xiaoya was the first to support it, nodding like a bobblehead. Wild mountain ginseng? Did you really stumble into heaven-sent luck? Hearing there was wild mountain ginseng, Yunyang sucked in a sharp breath. Even the poorest 1-year-old wild mountain ginseng could be traded for 1 or 2 taels of silver. Wouldn't that mean this family's grain for the winter was secured? But on the mountain, any medicinal herbs exposed above the ground had already been picked clean. If you wanted to find wild mountain ginseng or anything like that, you could only go to Black Wind Mountain, where wolves, venomous creatures, tigers, and leopards made it extremely dangerous. Could it be that Su Changyin was just bragging for the sake of eating meat? Yunyang didn't take his words seriously either. Yunyang, just stew 1. When it's done, serve up a bowl of meat and a jar of wine, and send them to old Li's family. As for these 2 daughters-in-law, we need to go say something. Also mention what happened at the door today. In the end, it was Su Tailin who spoke up, and he brought up an important matter, the identities of Xun Yurong and Xin Yue. In these famine years, even picking up a woman to take home as a wife still involved all kinds of formalities, like parental consent and a matchmaker's word. As for whether to hold a banquet, it didn't really matter. Every household was short on food, but they still had to go inform the Lijing, that is, the village chief, to make the status official and leave a record. That's true. Sigh. Only then did Yunyang remember, and she couldn't help but let out a sigh. Half of the 2 wild pheasants was about to be given away, but there was no helping it. This meat and wine had to be sent. They had to give the 2 girls some sort of status. Once they took the things over and properly informed the village Lijing, it would count as having a status and officially staying on. It's just that if the county yamen runners ask about it later, they'd still have to go complete the paperwork and register the household record. But in the middle of winter, the county wasn't about to think of Qingshan village. Go to the county to complete the household registration. At the mention of establishing their status, Xin Yurong and Xin Yue couldn't help but grow tense. The 2 exchanged glances, standing there at a loss. Hopefully nothing unexpected would happen. Time to eat stewed chicken. A wild pheasant weighing more than 4 jin went into the pot, and Xiaoya jumped with joy. The smell of stewed chicken was even better than stewed rabbit, and chicken was nutritious and had a better texture too. This girl, I really can't raise her anymore. She's been spoiled rotten day after day. After Yunyang finished her work, she also felt helpless inside. These good days of eating meat every day felt just like a dream. When the stewed chicken was ready, Yunyang served up a bowl of chicken, took out a jar of rice wine, and headed toward the village chief's house. But just as she stepped out the door, a group of people at the street corner surrounded her. They'd all been drawn by the aroma of the stewed chicken. You could smell it from far away. Say, Yunyang, has your family struck it rich or something? How come you're eating meat every day? Yeah, has old Sue's leg gotten better? Caught it in the mountains? Look at this prosperous life of yours, carrying stewed meat in one hand and wine in the other. We're all fellow villagers here. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows perfectly well what the Su family is like. But the Su family's days of eating meat every day really left them baffled, and they were envious beyond belief. Isn't it our Nianji from the family? He's been learning to hunt from the old man, and he's actually picked up some real skills. A wild chicken caught today. Yunyang was not the kind of person to show weakness. You're jealous, huh? Then stay jealous. Out loud, she gave Su Changyin a round of lavish praise, talking about a beautiful wife, and how he could hunt rabbits and mountain chickens. Truly remarkable. No matter what conflicts there were at home, outside, the Su family was one unit. Back inside, Su Changyin's ears turned red from hearing it all. That's about enough. Sister-in-law really has a sharp tongue. Xin Yue moved close to her sister, covering her mouth as she snickered. Yunyang really did have a sharp tongue. Don't be fooled by how she bickers with Su Changyan at home every day. Once they're out the door, they have to present a united front. Calling him Nianji this and Nianji that made the people at the village entrance so jealous their faces twisted. Jealous, are you? If you've got the ability, then go up the mountain and hunt too. Your sister-in-law is amazing. So is your husband not amazing too? Why don't you praise me? Stop it, sis, look at him. Su Changyan quietly crept over, hugged Xin Yue from behind, and gave her a few fierce rewards from the back. Naturally, the three of them ended up chasing and laughing around for a while. After they were done fooling around, Su Changyan finally took out his bow and arrows and began practicing archery. That arrow he shot at the wild chicken today had really just been pure dumb luck, a true edge-shot master. He had to practice hard and improve his accuracy. He only hated that he wasn't some reincarnated king of soldiers, able to kill wolves barehanded, fight tigers up close, and hunt in the mountains as easily as eating and drinking. Good thing there was a system in his mind. Ding! Host has hunted and killed 2 wild pheasants. Experience plus 15 points. Current system level, level 1, experience, 25 out of 100. Su Changyan checked over it in his mind. The experience for catching wild pheasants had been credited, and it was accumulating pretty quickly. Qingshan village wasn't big, and in less than half a shurchen, Yunyang came back, carrying 2 jin of millet. Su Tailan nodded in satisfaction. For this kind of thing, Yunyang had to be the one to go. Not only had she settled the matter of the Shin sisters, she had also traded back 2 jin of millet. Soon, a big basin of stewed chicken was set on the table, and the whole family sat down at the table. Yunyang at home didn't. While everyone was eating, a shout came from the doorway. Yunyang hurried out, and Su Changyan followed behind to see what was going on. At the door stood a 1.7-meter tall man, still holding half a bowl of millet in his hand. It was Ma Han, a farmer from the village and the Su family's next-door neighbor. The 2 families got along fairly well, and Ma Han was an honest man too. Brother Ma, why are you standing at the door? Come in and sit. Have you eaten yet? Yunyang invited Uncle Ma inside. But Ma Han shook his head and simply held the bowl out to Yunyang, saying embarrassedly, "That girl at home caught the smell of your stewed chicken and is craving it so badly. There isn't much grain left in my house either. This is half a jin of millet. Could I trade it for 2 pieces of meat? A bowl of soup would do too." In present-day Qingshan village, even during the holidays, poor families can't get any meat to eat. Coming straight to someone's door asking for meat, Ma Han, an honest farmer, really didn't have the nerve for that, so he had no choice but to bring half a bowl of grain to trade. Yunyang had the kind of temperament that yielded to softness but not force. And seeing Ma Han's honest look, she naturally softened. But the meat had all been hunted by Su Changyan, so before agreeing, she still turned back to glance at him. Su Changyan shrugged, indicating he didn't mind. It was only 2 pieces of meat, and besides, the man hadn't come empty-handed. They would all be living in Qingshan village from now on, so sooner or later they'd need each other's help. Back when eldest brother Su Changqing was still around, he had plenty of brothers and friends, and everything in the family was easy to handle. Once the current difficulties were over, they had to start keeping up those relationships again. Interpersonal relationships were an indispensable kind of soft power. The relationship between our 2 families. If the child is really craving it, just come over and have a bite. Brother Ma, really now? Seeing Su Changyan nod, only then did Yunyang invite Ma Han inside, ladle out a spoonful of chicken soup, and pick up 2 pieces of chicken. After the little interruption, everyone continued eating the stewed chicken. Of the 2 drumsticks, one went to Xiaoya and one to Su Tailan. The chicken wings went to the 2 new wives. In the end, a few big chunks of meat were left, and Xiaoya started competing with Su Changyan, scrambling for them with great delight. When it comes to eating meat, it only tastes best when you fight over it. As night fell, Su Changyan and Xin Yurong returned to their room, and naturally there was no avoiding a round of intimate exchange. For Yunyang, it was another sleepless night of tossing and turning. The next morning, using the leftover chicken soup from last night, Yunyang cooked a pot of porridge with a few bits of meat floating on top. It smelled wonderful. After eating and drinking their fill, Su Changyan returned to his room, and the system's intelligence cooldown had also ended. Ding! Intelligence is being acquired. Recent fortune. After extreme misfortune comes good luck. Mature wild ginseng. On the mountainside of Xiaya Mountain, there is a wild ginseng waiting to be dug up. Old hunter on the mountain. On Xiaya Mountain, an old hunter is out hunting. And if you go meet him, You might have an unexpected gain. Wolf attack. Several wild wolves have come down from Hafing Mountain and ran into a herd of wild boars. After the two sides fought, both suffered casualties. It is extremely dangerous. After the new intelligence refreshed, Su Changyan was quite surprised. Not bad. These 3 pieces of intelligence all looked quite tempting. Wild boars battling wild wolves. It sounded pretty dramatic. But Su Changyan still decisively gave up. Whether wild boars or wild wolves, they both like to move in packs. Was that something he could deal with? The system had also made it crystal clear. Extremely dangerous. As for the old hunter intelligence, there didn't seem to be any danger, but he had no idea what exactly the situation was. Nor did it indicate any fixed reward, so it was basically a matter of trying his luck. Since that was the case, then he might as well honestly go dig up the wild ginseng. Tomorrow was the big market day in town, when people from all the surrounding villages would come to trade, and wild ginseng could fetch a good price. After changing into proper gear, Su Changyan set out. Today's work would not be easy. It was the dead of winter now, and the ground on the mountain was frozen hard, with the mountain high and the paths slippery. It wouldn't be easy to dig. Strictly speaking, the previous 2 hunts had both been at the foot of the mountain. This was his first time truly going up the mountain. Don't you think it's strange that Su Changyan had only just started hunting, yet he came back with something every single time? Exactly. If you're talking about old Su, well, he's an old hunter, so there was nothing much to say about him catching a few rabbits or pheasants. But what skills does Su Changyan have? I, Wang Wu, really can't accept it. Could it be that the 2 of us brothers' hunting skills aren't even as good as that rascal Su Changyan's? Come on, pack up our things and take a trip up Xiaya Mountain. Maybe there'll be more game this winter. Go, go, go. Watching Su Changyan head up the mountain again. Someone in Qingshan village couldn't sit still anymore, especially the other hunters. These days, even after going up Xiaya Mountain 4 or 5 times, they still couldn't find a single rabbit. Why does Su Changyan get both wild rabbits and wild pheasants? It really made them feel jealous.